Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to today's episode of the Product Angle Show. Firstly, I'd like to introduce my co-host, Neeraj. Welcome, Neeraj.
Thank you, Pradeep. Delighted to be here.
And on today's guest, we have Justine. Justine is a UX, UI designer and UI developer on a mission to create a meaningful impact in people's lives. Justine has a BS in entertainment from entertainment engineering and design before becoming a full-time designer. Justine worked as an automation technician at multiple Cirque du Soleil shows, including the Beatles, Love, and Mystère. Welcome, Justine.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. How is everyone doing?
Good, thank you. I mean, I'm a big fan of Cirque du Soleil. I mean, back in the day when they were talking about Blue Ocean strategy, that was the number one case study that everyone talked about. And from there, Cirque du Soleil was an amazing, experience.
Yes, it's absolutely a magical experience for sure. Whether you're on stage, backstage, or as an audience member, it's a very magical experience.
So tell us, what did you do there?
So I was an automation technician for the show. I was in 3 shows, not at the same time, but most of what I did was to operate the console that moves like all the stages, like any mechanical elements on the stage, even flying people is also part of what I did. And then also to perform maintenance and stuff on all that equipment as well.
That sounds exciting. I mean, I got to nerd out about that, but let's back up a little bit. Tell us in your own words a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So I was born and raised in the Philippines. Right after I graduated high school, my family and I moved to the U.S. We lived in Las Vegas. I went to UNLV, and that's where I got my degree for entertainment engineering. And then, after that, I worked at Cirque. Had my started as an intern, and then eventually became a full-fledged automation technician. And then for a little bit, I took a little hiatus from Cirque for a couple years to live in Texas, and then when we moved back to Vegas, pursued Cirque again, and that was really fun. But I decided to switch careers because as fun and magical as it was to work for Cirque, the lifestyle was just difficult to keep up with. You're working nights, you're working holidays, you're working weekends. I rarely saw my family, so it got a little lonely. So I decided to switch careers. And upon researching on which career to pursue, I ran across UX design. And immediately it was like an aha moment for me, because this was a career path that catered both to my love for creativity and problem solving, and it's still tech related. And what's even more amazing about it is the meaningful impact that you can leave in people's lives from your work. And that was kind of the same reason why I wanted to pursue working at Cirque. Is, it's creative, it's technical, but you're bringing joy to people's lives. So and with UX design, it allows more flexibility for me to live anywhere and spend more time with my family and focus on what matters the most.
Yep. Can we introduce Dude there? I see him in the corner.
He's on my lap.
Yeah.
This is Dude.
Sorry.
This is our dog. We adopted him in Texas, and he's followed us everywhere, from Texas to Vegas and now to Virginia.
So cute.
Thank you. He's watching a truck outside our window.
Yeah, so that's fascinating how you moved. You've gone from doing automation engineering, entertainment into doing software design. Um, are there things that you learned at Cirque during your time there that made this transition, in addition to your desire to continue to be creative, to move into design and UX and continue that path? Were there certain skills that you could port?
Absolutely. I think the biggest take would be the concept of usability and inclusion in your designs. When you're working for a show, really any show, especially touring shows, you want to make sure that everyone in the audience can enjoy the show, no matter where they are, where they are seated in the house. And then there's also a matter of making sure that all the equipment, everything on stage, everything is safe for everyone to use, and everything is, you have contingency plans, and everything is, you design for error. You design for, you try to anticipate what errors could happen, and then how can we safely get out of that situation. And there's a lot of aspects to, working for a live production and then trying to incorporate that into design. And really, it's being able to give a good quality product for anyone and everyone. Like, this is going to be something that is good no matter where you're seated, and then also make sure that it's accommodating for, like, your theater should be accommodating for people with disabilities, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very impressive. When you talk about so inclusiveness, designing for everyone, designing for error, that's a very interesting way to look at it. When you think about how you've ported those skills into designing now for products and software, there's often this tendency to, let's push it out there, see what sticks. Whereas in a live show, you can't just push something out there. You have to be really, the perfection that is required to deliver the impeccable experience, the different kinds of bars. How have you ported from one to the other and looked at ways to saying, okay, my design is going to meet this bare minimum bar before I put it out there for others to experience it?
So similar to the process of, I guess, adding a new element or adding a new act to a show, there's the initial design of the act, and then there's the countless rehearsals and testing of the equipment. And when it's deemed, I guess, your minimum viable product or minimum viable feature, that is, you want to make sure that you ship something that works, that is enjoyable, and is also safe. And by safe, it's like, in terms of digital products as well, you want to make sure that it's accommodating for people who have are visually impaired, things like that, but also to make sure that it's not going through the topic of dark patterns. It's not manipulative in a negative way to your users, because as designers, we're kind of we don't realize how much power we have in shifting human behavior through our products. So we have to be very, very mindful of our designs, and depending on our products too. I think it's important to be mindful of the consequences of our designs to people and also to the environment. But yeah, we're powerful, and we can be pretty dangerous if we're not careful.
That's a good point.
Definitely. How would you describe your, the learning curve coming from a non-technical background to maybe, designing experiences in the software world?
not graceful at all. It's I it was messy. Yeah, there are things that you learn from boot camps, from courses, from articles and books, but um, it's never what they tell you. It never comes out the way they lay it out in these articles and these books. Many there are many ways that you need to adjust because of your team structure, or maybe the state of the product, or even the business or the organization. So and there's the idea or the concept of UX. There's not really a very uniformed or consistent definition across the industry, and that is something that there's actually a small group of us that are working to come up with some sort of standard which will allow designers to be not just become good designers, but also to design for the good of people, and also for preserving everything that is good for us, because we've seen it tragically happen, especially on social media applications. At first it was like the like button feature in Instagram and Facebook. At first that was there to help boost people's confidence, but then it started becoming an anxiety-inducing feature, because if I post this picture and not enough people like it, then do people even still care about me? It shifted the way a lot of us think. So it's one of those examples where you really need to be careful and just really try your best to think about what could happen once you ship this feature or this product.
Definitely, I think Neeraj.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, we can definitely relate to that, because in product management, a product manager at a startup is going to be much different to a product manager working in a Fortune 50 company. So we can definitely relate to that.
Yeah. And I actually want to echo something that is very profound, what you said. And my inference is good design is not always good for people. But what is good for people usually is always good design. That is a very profound thing for many designers and product managers, by the way, also to be kind of aware of. Growth hacks are great, but if they are done with the mind that this is going to be good for people, good for users, that's a key thing to kind of move forward with. One thing you said caught my attention, in addition, Justine, is when you are looking at parameters for what is good for people as you're designing, and as you and your teams are designing these things, have you found that inclusivity experience, that making sure that everyone in the auditorium, now relating to everyone who uses this product, gets the same stellar experience? Doesn't matter where they're seated, doesn't matter where they're using it. Are there certain things that have made you more aware of how you design products?
Yeah, definitely. There are things, and I'm guilty of this. It's very easy to get tunnel vision on your design, because you're so adamant in solving this one problem, but also trying to make it visually, visually stunning or visually compelling, and then you forget that there are these, just even if it feels small, it's big. It has a large impact when you think about things like, can I accomplish this task with one hand? Like if it's a mobile device, a mobile app, can I accomplish this task with one hand? And you're like, okay, so it's one person who only has one hand, or, and I'm like, well, not just people who, have, not just people who are missing a limb, but you're thinking about parents who are holding a child while trying to accomplish a task on their phone, or, if you temporarily are incapacitated with one arm and have to use or just the one arm, like you're thinking outside of what people or many people would consider our edge cases. It's just trying to be more accommodating. And it is our mission to make things more convenient and easier for people. So even if it seems like we're designing for an edge case, you can kind of see a broader kind of snowball effect of this usability feature that you're not feature, but this more usable aspect into this design.
Yeah,
That
that's a good
benefit
point. Yeah, good point.
What would you say some of the skills designers should learn or possess as they start building and developing experiences?
So I don't know if I would consider this as a skill, because I think it's easy to pick up on visual design and learning how to use design tools like Figma or Sketch. And then I think it's also, it's relatively easy to develop the skills of a researcher, a UX researcher. But I think the most important part is being able to articulate your design ideas and your design decisions, and also your ability to communicate and articulate the value of your work to the many stakeholders that you have, and also being able to be open-minded and collaborate outside of the design team. I think it's very, very important that you know, like as UX designers, we're taught to evangelize being user advocates, and we forget, and having empathy for our users, but we forget to remind ourselves that we should also have empathy for people outside of the design team. We should have empathy for our engineers who will be implementing our design. We should also have empathy for our PMs who are, you know, designing the roadmap for getting us through this product or this project. So I think it's important to have those. I guess they're more traits than skills, really. It's to be open to collaboration, learn to communicate well, and yeah, just I guess stay curious and never stop learning. Always try to make a habit of learning something new every day. Like for me, I'll listen to a podcast or make it a point to read an article every day, even if it's something that you feel like you've already read before, or feel like you've already learned before, or feel like you already just know. It's good to see that same principle or that same concept through a different lens. It's good to see that from another person's perspective also.
Yeah, so it's a great point. I want to go back to something you said in the interacting with different people, different functions, keeping them in mind. In a live show, the collaboration and cooperation of everyone is mandatory. It's mandatory because it's first and foremost about safety and then delivering impeccable experiences. In the software world, sometimes you can get away with certain things, right? Because you're like, well, let's get the 80% is good enough, or some such sort of a notion is there. Get it out, see what's going to happen. What has surprised you as you made this transition from your world of live experiences to delivering experiences that are a little more static, but the bar from what needs to be there can be a little bit fuzzy? Has there something just you like, oh my God, I wish I had known this earlier?
There's a lot. I guess an example would be, me trying to negotiate a design decision with some engineers. This was a previous project, but what was it? The engineer wasn't agreeing with the design proposal because it was going to be, it was just, I guess the to quote him, it was the ROI of adjusting the API and stuff. It was just like too much. It wasn't worth adjusting everything in the back end to accommodate what we're trying to propose in the front end, which we thought was going to be a better experience for the users. So yeah, it was just one of those like, oh my God, I have to learn how to negotiate things. Like you almost have to learn how to be a good debater. You know, it's like, okay, I understand your concern. However, you know, this is why I made this design decision. Is there a way for us to kind of find a middle ground? And that was like, you know, a months long debate between the design team and the engineers. But yeah, I think that was something I wish I was prepared for, was the ability to negotiate and yeah, because for my own decisions, because you know when I was at Cirque, I kind of just joined the team. They taught me how to do the job, and then you know when emergencies happen during the show, we have a scripted contingency plan. We know who to talk to, what parts to move, and who needs to do what. Everything is so well choreographed. And surprisingly, when it comes to, you know, software, you have a plan, but you need to be flexible because you're going to run into surprise, you know, constraints and just stuff that you didn't realize. You're like, oh, I guess that, you know, like if you're using a certain library to support a certain function in your app, and you're like, oh, I guess we can't do that. Okay, well, let's go back to the drawing board and see how else can we solve this problem based on what our tech stack can support.
That's an awesome point. It's a good time to also plug in that there is a fascinating article written by Pradeep that talks about negotiations within teams. That actually anybody who's listening in, if you did negotiations for product people, that'll be the first top post in the Google search. Shameless plug there. Pradeep, back to you.
Thank you, Neeraj. I mean, Justine, as soon as you mentioned the word negotiation, my heart just felt so happy, because that's exactly what I'm trying to bring into, you know, through the product angle, is that we all have to negotiate. And, you know, it can seem scary. We don't know how to do it. We haven't been to school, and it's not in the curriculum, at least from a product management perspective. I haven't seen it in the curriculum being taught. So when you mentioned the word negotiation, you gave your example, I had a big smile on my face. I took a screenshot, and I'm going to post it on Twitter as soon as, you know, I get a second. So I'm really happy and excited that you know, that was something that you mentioned.
That's funny that you mentioned, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. It's funny you mentioned that negotiation isn't taught in school. And it's funny enough, like I didn't know that how to negotiate, or that I needed to negotiate until, I mean, thank goodness for the Nielsen Norman group, because they actually teach you that designers need to learn how to communicate and negotiate their design decisions. But like, you know, the past other educational sources I found, it was so focused on building our portfolio, making compelling screens and experiences, but then they don't tell you that gritty part of defending your design decisions and, you know, articulating your research findings and then sharing that with your team. Then also, just even if it's not beyond defending your design decisions, it's good to just keep your team up to date and share with them, you know, the wonderful, like the wins that your team accomplished from the design to implementation, like how you know, the aspect of UX has benefited the product and the team, and just like benchmarking, you know, like seeing that progress it's good to share that, and then to make the, you know, boost the morale of the team, and also to, in a way, teach them the value of having a user-centered approach to your product.
Absolutely, that's a very good point. What would you say, or what would you like to share with someone who's thinking of making a career transition into design from a different function? What would you like to tell them?
That it is possible. That it doesn't matter what background you're from. If this is a career you want to pursue, it's possible. And we have such an amazing community out there. Everyone's very supportive. If you want to pursue it, transition into UX design, there are many great sources out there on how to get started. But I'm going to tell you too that it's going to be a messy and difficult transition, because UX is in a weird spot right now. Nobody really knows exactly what it is. I guess most people don't really quite understand what it is, and you'll find a lot of employers asking for, what they would call unicorns and who can do everything. And I'm going to tell you, you don't need to know everything. And I mean, I'm certified and I don't know everything. It's just the most important part of this transition is your curiosity to keep learning, and also to be flexible. You can follow a guide. There's a path that you can follow for sure. You can use that as a guide, but you have to make sure that you have to also be flexible, because there are going to be obstacles in that path, and those obstacles are not easy. But yeah, just stay strong, stick with it, and reach out. Feel free to reach out to me and anyone in the community, because I'm telling you, we are all here for each other. It doesn't matter if we've been in the industry for decades or if we've only been there for a couple of years. There's always something new to learn. And yeah, just looking at things from a different angle, it's very important.
Yeah, that's an excellent advice, by the way, in terms of reaching out. I wish more people would reach out to many more people, even though it may seem like a cold call and no one really wants to deal with it. Fact of the matter is that plenty of folks in the industry have had a lot of help. And many folks, whether it's design or product or engineering for that matter, strongly believe, if I may say that, with assertion, in paying it forward. So people have gone through that path. They want to kind of help out others. So most people should do that. In addition to negotiations, which I understand now you wish you had learned a little earlier, also given the background of understanding what immersive experiences are, what stellar, compelling visualizations need to be. I mean, Cirque du Soleil takes the bar so high. What are some other skills you wish you had developed a little earlier that would have helped you grow a much bigger, a better designer, anything that stands out?
I think the ability to be more organized as a designer, because I understood and knew of a lot of principles and methods in UX, but I didn't quite know how to organize that into a solid plan, or a foundation with which I can work through or work from. And a lot of the times, like, I found myself just scrambling, trying to keep up with, like in the middle of a sprint, I'm like scrambling, trying to keep up and trying to figure out, okay, what needs to be done? Who's going to look at my stuff? What do I do? Like, in the beginning, like, I just found myself not really knowing where to start, and not knowing what to prioritize. So I wish I knew how to. I have a better idea of how to be more organized and how to prioritize now, but definitely in the beginning, I was panicking, like didn't know where to start and what to do first. So yeah.
That's good. That's good. Good. Yeah, organizational skills. I think there's a couple more things, if I may add. I've seen is storytelling that comes with organization, and part of that storytelling leads to then you being in a better, stronger position of negotiating. Which I think the word negotiation has somehow gotten more of a negative connotation to it. What it really boils down is to finding that middle ground in the business and the design, meeting the business constraints and what we are trying to achieve from a user standpoint. I want to go off topic a little bit here. I want to pick up this question from Jonah. And by the way, for everyone listening in, you can put questions out there. We will ask them live directly from Justine. So Jonah's question, it's a little taking a sidestep, but we'll come back to the main course here in just a moment, is like, what do you expect to see in a junior UX designer's portfolio?
That is a great question, Jonah. Thank you for asking that. So for a junior UX designer's portfolio, I would say focus more on your process, on how you arrived in that design. I know having nice, like visually compelling screenshots are also good, but I think a company that truly values UX in their products would know to have a stronger focus on your process through solving that problem and coming up with your final design of that product. Don't worry too much about putting a lot of pretty pictures on your portfolio. Focus on, you're having a problem statement and being concise, clear and concise with that. Articulate your research process, articulate your design process, and articulate your design decisions also based on the research or the findings that you had from your research. And then, I guess it depends also on where you're coming from. If it's a project that you've worked on from a previous employer, or even if let's say you're starting from scratch, you're not even a designer and you want to get into design. I say good projects that you can get yourself into would be reach out to a local nonprofit. Reach out to a nonprofit that means a lot to you, and offer to design their website for them. Reach out to a local business and do the same thing, like offer to design that website for them, or because that is something that I think, like for me, if I were hiring a junior designer, if I see that you reached out to local businesses or to a nonprofit, like that shows that that you care, that you genuinely care, and two, that you had the guts to reach out to someone and you had the audacity to help that person or that organization. And that means a lot. Like that shows a lot about your character as a UX designer. UX is more than just designing good products. It's more than just designing cool things. UX is really having that genuine connection with people and then supporting them in the best way that you can.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. You mentioned two things that are very close to my heart as well. I want you to expand on that a little bit further. Reaching out reaching out not only just to the local organizations, but nonprofits, different kinds of organizations. And I think in that process, you're also reaching out to your customers slash users, speaking with them to kind of solve their problems. As you've honed in your process from a design standpoint, how often do you speak with your users, customers, and what are things that you've learned to continue to build that muscle that helps you become a better designer by empathizing or relating with the user's needs?
So I think it's important to, at least in your design process, and then depending on your team's framework, like with us, we're in an agile, lean agile framework. So it's very iterative, and I keep an open communication with our users, with our PMO. Like we just try to keep the conversation flowing continuously and always communicating to them, giving them progress. Like, hey, this is our progress today, from our last conversation, and we'd like to know, or to just share with you what we accomplished. And just keeping that open communication, I think, is very important, because then you can, it's like release small things often and then fix it often also whenever you need to fix, rather than waiting till the very end, releasing this big thing only to revert back and try to scramble and fix everything with much little time. So yeah, I think being iterative is good.
So I want to take the conversation now into working with PMs, how designers and PMs work together. So in your opinion and what you're seeing, what are some of the skills that you look for in product managers?
Someone who is open-minded and supportive, but also someone who knows how to, I guess, have a healthy means of disagreeing. I think it's important. Disagreements are going to happen. It's normal. But I think it's also important that both the designer and the PM would have a strong rapport. I think you should always have a good relationship, and you should both be able to, be supportive of each other, and keep an open mind, see each other's perspectives. And like for a PM, I really appreciate those who value and are curious about usability and user-centered design. I think that's something that means a lot to us, because then we know that we have an ally in this project, in this journey of creating some product. It's good to have. It's also good to have a second pair of eyes to see, to keep us on the same path, and to also make sure that or everyone's vision is the same, as opposed to always fighting, trying to tug and pull in other directions. I think it's really important that we all have a healthy relationship, and that we all are able to communicate healthily.
Definitely. I mean, if you were to talk to a PM, because a number of different viewers who are either watching this podcast live or who will watch it as a blog post, if you were able to tell them something directly from a designer to a product manager, what would you say to a product manager to help improve that relationship, or to just something like you'd like to say to them?
Well, so I guess I would say that we're both working together towards the same goal. And I think it's important that we both respect each other's decisions. And I think it's important that we both support each other in this journey, because we both know this isn't easy. We are both seeing aspects of this project that the other one doesn't see. So I think it's important that, both of us would keep an open and ever-flowing means of communication. Just keep talking to each other. Let's keep each other posted. And if we learn something new or find something weird in the middle of our process, our project, share it. I want to learn about it. I want to learn what you're seeing. I want to learn your side of the story too, because that will give me and the engineers a better idea of how we can sort of shift our process also in order to support you. Like, we're all here to support each other. That's the most important part.
Absolutely, I agree with you. We have another question from Ann Jones did. How would you deal with the designing for end users that you do not have the ability to engage with?
I have a lot of experience with that. So if you have a support team or a call center, talk to them. They are the very first people in line who deal with customers. So talk to them, collaborate with them. You can base some of your usability research through them, because that's how you'll get the end user's feedback through support. Like, you can ask them, okay, what's the most common common problem that people are calling about? Okay, let's look into that. Well, why are they complaining about it? What are they experiencing? Oh, okay, got it. Okay, let's work on that. Let's focus on that. Another one would be marketing also, because marketing has a great perspective on, not just your user demographic, but also their behavior. They study them. So in order to create ads and marketing strategies that would entice them to purchase your product. So yeah, those are two good departments to reach out to when you're not able to have a direct contact with your end users.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I mean, one thing I would also add is look for those voice of customer. If you are not directly if you're unable to directly get to the customer, look for people who are interacting with the customers as during the normal course of there, to kind of hear that feedback, which, to Justine's point, customer support, and in some cases actually sales and is also very useful as well, because they bring that information back into the company.
We have another question here from Miguel. Can you name a UX book or any book in general that has had an impact on you, and why?
Ooh. So the very, very first UX book that I read was The Design of Everyday Things by Don Norman. That is like the Holy Grail or the Holy Bible of design. And there's just so many insightful things that you don't think about. He talks about doors and why doors are, it's not your fault that you didn't know how to open that door. It's the person who designed that door. It's just such a fascinating book. Another book that I enjoyed, it's not really a UX book. It's not a design book. It is, let me Google who the author is. But it is The Social Animal by David Brooks. And it talks a lot about it's just human behavior and how we're all social animals, and how our interactions with and relationships with different people have such a big impact on our character and our survival. And I thought that's just such a fascinating book, because a lot of what UX is too is, we're learning about human behavior, and it's good to have that understanding of like why people make the decisions that they do. Why do they behave this way? What prompted them to take this action as opposed to the other? So I think it's good to have just a good foundation on that.
That's a great point about I side swiped because I wanted to remind everyone that the design of everything, everyday things is actually, yes, it is a design book of sorts, but product managers who actually deal with designing and understanding their users must also read something. They should also read this book. It is very useful for PMs as well. So.
Thank you, Miguel. We have one more question here from Romina. I have seen many job posts requiring years of experience for a junior. How to get into the market without experience? Could you tell how was it for you?
So when I was getting started, I remember it being difficult and painful because I had just rejection after rejection. Because and we joke about this, looking for entry-level senior UX designer. Like, wait, what? Entry-level senior? Is that how is that a thing? How is that possible? But that probably actually exists somewhere. But yeah, I think it's good to have a strong portfolio that, and as I shared earlier too, a strong portfolio that features or focuses on your process and your strengths as a designer. Like, don't worry about fancy screens, even if it's just like low fidelity wireframes or even pencil sketch wireframes, that's fine. Don't worry about the graphics. Really focus on your ability to determine the problem, how you solved it, the means that you took to solve that problem. And then, yeah, as I said earlier, reach out to local businesses or nonprofit organizations, reach out to help them. Alternatively, you can find like an existing, the most common project that new designers like to do is to find a really bad website and redesign it. I've done that too. Just as it's a good exercise too, because once you're in it and you're working on the same project over and over, it's good to kind of just like give yourself that little exercise to design something different. It doesn't have to be an entire product. It could just be one activity that happens in that product that you need to redesign. But yeah, I say the most important part is to be able to present that initiative in your work. And yeah, so like no experience, that's fine. Like I think, like I said, it's important to show that you have that that drive and that initiative to show your process and to create something. And yeah, like it was hard for me when I was getting started. Be prepared to receive a lot of rejection letters, but I'm going to tell you the right company is going to find you. Never lose hope, never lose faith. You're going to find that. And yeah, when you do get that interview, practice, look up questions that you can ask your interviewer as well. Don't worry about, like, yes, try to prepare for questions that they may ask you. And it's usually just about your portfolio, and your resume possibly, but I think it's also very important that you ask them some good questions as well, because job interviews, it's like dating. You're applying for a place that you're going to be with for a few years, maybe forever, who knows, but you want to be with a place that supports you, that values you as a person, not just as an employee that they give a paycheck to twice a month. So I think that's very important that you know what their process is also, and what they value, how they perceive UX, and then also company culture. I think that's also important.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Neeraj, before we head out and close the session, do you have any other questions?
No, I think this was great. So much to learn here, Justine. Thank you so much. And as you think about one, maybe, well, not really a question, but something that you can shed some light on, as you look forward in 2021. And I'm thinking most of us are going to be happy that 2020 is going to be behind us soon. What is one thing or two things in the design world that you are looking forward to and you want to achieve for yourself?
I think this might be a little ambitious, but I think it's to be able to create an impact in at least one person's life, one designer's life. I think, when I was getting started, I was doing it. It felt like I was doing it all on my own. I didn't have a mentor to tell me or to teach me how to get started. I was scrambling to get started, and when I finally landed my first job, I mean, there wasn't. It was more of like a team of UI designers that had a foundation of or understanding of usability, but there wasn't really a UX process. So I found myself trying to establish it myself, and I didn't know what I was doing. Still don't, but I think, if I can be someone who is able to help someone get their foot in the door and land that job, and and maybe not just as a UX designer, I think, if there's anyone out there that I can just help accomplish something that is meaningful to them, I think that would be a great accomplishment for me. This year has been dark and full of terrors for all you Game of Thrones fans out there. But yeah, so I think if I could just shed some light in someone's life, that would mean a lot to me.
Cool. That's fantastic. Thank you. Justine, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure chatting with you and learning about your experience. So if you haven't already, follow Justine on Twitter, Justine Chlorine. And once this episode will go live on theproductangle.com, probably Monday, and I'll put up all her links to her website and her Medium on the blog post. But Justine, thank you so much. It's been fantastic.
Well, thank you so much also for having me. This has been super fun and super exciting. And thank you everyone also for your questions. I have learned a lot too, just talking to everyone here. So thank you.
And Neeraj, as always, we can follow you on Twitter at Neeraj. It's been awesome hosting this with you. And we'll chat soon.
We'll chat soon. More to come in 2021.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.